Hi everyone, welcome back. In this session we'll be talking about how you can write from your Python program into file. How you can write to file from your Python program. Let's go straight to our Python editor to start exploring this topic. So before I start with writing to file from our Python program, I want to show you my own implementation of the exercise I gave in the last session, which I asked you to simulate a school record with a list of classes and where you can add the name of student to any class of your choice. So there are other ways we can write this, we can do this, but I want you to demonstrate the use of dictionary in this implementation. That's why I asked you to use dictionary. So here in my implementation, I have created a dictionary that will actually store the list of classes and the classes that we have in the school and the list of students within each classes. These are the list of classes we have in the school, which is S1, S2, S3 and S4. So if I run this, we have created the empty dictionary and the list of classes that we have. And now here in this cell, I use the list to actually assign the classes in each class as a key in the dictionary, to make each class as a key in the dictionary. So running this, you can see S1 now is a key which have empty list, and S2 is a key which is assigned empty list. All of them have empty list. There is no student in any of those classes yet. So the next cell here, we will be able to enter if you want to add students to any of the classes. So this says enter 1 to add students to a class or 0 to exit. So I always give my user option to exit the system. So if I enter 0, the system will exit. So if I enter 1, so it will continue. So the next cell will take the output of this to determine what happens. So assuming if I enter 0, now in the next cell, if I print, it will say exiting the system. So because I enter 0 to exit. So if I enter 1, okay, that means I want to continue. Then in the next cell, if I click, then it will ask me list of existing classes. Then I will enter the class that I want to add student to. Let me assume we want to add student to S1. So if I'm adding student to S1 and I have clicked X1, the next cell, if I click, it will ask me to add students to S1 or exit. It's always give me. So if I'm adding student to S1, let me say I'm adding Bruce John, and I am adding Carlos Bar. Let me say I'm adding Jumai Aisha. I don't know if the spelling is correct. So I enter. So successfully I've added students to S1. Let's try if I want to add students to S2 also. S2, still X1. It will continue with adding to S1. So unless I want to add to another class now, and I say I'm adding to S3, so, and I can click here to add to S3 now. Let me say I add Dad and I'm add blah to S3, I think. So, and the next cell, I can now enter the class for which you want to print the list. This cell prints the list of students in a class. So if I enter S1, so it prints all this that I've added to S1. And if I click here and I say S3, I think, okay, this is where we had that and all those names. And if I click S2, which we have not added any name, it says no student added to this class yet. If I click a class that is not here, it will tell me please enter valid class among this list. So it's also tells us if the class is not within the design of the school. So here I can print all the students in the school based on their classes. If I click here, you have list of students in S1. These are the list of students in S1, list of students in S2. There is no student added to S2. Yes, list of students in S3. These are the list of students in S3, so no student added to S4 yet. So this is my own implementation of that, and I will leave the link to this implementation down below this video, and you can look at how I implement it. I have broken it down so that we can use it in the next session when we were talking about functions. So here you can see each cell does part of the whole program. So let's quickly go to start talking about reading and writing in to file. Reading and writing to file. Reading and writing to file, that's what we want to discuss in this session. Basically, so far we have been generating variables like what we generate now, the student list, the student dictionary with the classes and the list of students within the classes is generated within this program. And if I close this program, all those data is lost. So we want to learn how to write our data from Python program to file. But in this session, I would look at how you can write to text file. There's other file formats you can write to that will be more suitable to store this document. But for now, let's see how we can write to file. So in writing to file, read from file. So to read from file, you need first the file name. The file name, let's say the file name we have here is read.txt. So read.txt. We are reading from file, and you have to create the file which says open. Use function open, then takes the argument file name, right? So we can now say for line in file object, right, print each line. So first let's create a file called read text in our in the document we are working on. So this is where my Python program is. So I want to create a file, notepad. So notepad, so this is line 1 of read.txt file. So let's copy this. This is line 2, line 3 and 4. Let's say we have line 5. So we have 5 lines. We want to save it inside this read.txt. Read.txt. So we have this file called read.txt in the same folder as this Python program, and we have created file object with this open function given to us by Python, and the argument inside the open function is a file name. Now we read each line from the file object and print it out. If we run this now, we should have line 1 of read text file, line 2. This is what we have in the file that I just created now. So the construct is you have the file name, and you create the file object with open function, and then you can read each line, read the file line by line. So that is a simple method to read from file. There are other methods, but I'm teaching you the simple ones here so that you can explore what other ones on your own. So we have been able to read from that file. And the one thing I want you to note from here is that we use this as file name because the read.txt file is actually residing in the folder where our Python program is. Let's assume I have another one on my desktop. Let's say I have I think I have one text file, this hello on my desktop. Hello, this file is stored on my desktop. I will use absolute path to access the file program from the Python program. So let's say it's missing n here. So if you are going to read this file from your Python program, you need to copy the path, the absolute path. You can see I right click, copy as path, then back to my Python program. So back to my Python program, I have the path now. Let's call this file name 2 is equal to the path. Note that this slash is either you make it double or you invert it. So we make it double to change it from escape sign. So you know the first one slash means the escape sign. So this has created the absolute path to that file because it's not residing in the folder where our Python program is. So if you create the absolute path, you have the file object. Let's call this file object 2, which is equal to open and our file name 2. So this create the file object. I can now say for each line in the file object 2, I want to print the line. So let's run this. This gives us what we have in that file. Hello, this text file is stored in my desktop. I will use absolute path to access the file from my Python. You can see the difference between absolute and relative file paths. The one I used here is relative because we have this file inside the folder where we have our Python program, but the second one is the absolute path to the file. So the absolute path to the file that we want to because it is not residing in our Python, the same folder with our Python program. That's a method to read data from file into our Python program. That's a method to read data from file into the Python program. So we can also use a list comprehension to take each of the lines in our file object into a list. Let's say list of text lines in file will be a list line for all lines in open file name. So we have the file name up here that we have created. So open file name is the file object. If I run this now and I print the list of text line in file, so we will have the escape text here because it's showing that each of this text is a line. So we can actually run this using the strip function, which we strip that escape space trailing space from the so if we run this and we have this, then that escape signal point is as been removed. So we have each line of text now as an element of this list. So we have each line of text as an element of the list. So that's an example of how you can read from file. Similarly, we can also read all the text in that file into a string object. We can read the text in that file into a string object. String variable. Let's call the string, and we say open file name dot read. So read this. We use this read function, and if you do run this and we print string, we have all the text in that file. So you have line 1 of read text, line 2 of read text inside the string. So we can use that to read from file into a string variables in our program. So that's a simple way to read from file. Now let's look at how to write from our program into text file. Let's look at how to write from our Python program into text file. writing to text file from Python program. Similarly, it takes the same. So the first thing you create is the file object. Let's say we want to write into, you open the file object with, you create the file object with open. Let's say we want to create a write dot text, and here the second argument here that you need here to write to file is to this W. This W is telling the interpreter that this file is being open for writing. So it's telling the interpreter that this file has been open for writing. So when you create that file object, then you now use this print, the same print that we used to print to console. This is line 1 written to file from Python. Then the second argument here is the file, which is equal to the file object that we have created here. So let's copy this and write like couple of more lines to the file. This is line 2, this is line 3, let's say this is line 4. So written to the same file. If I run this now, let's run and check this document where we have write.txt. Yeah, I have write.txt here. There is nothing here. This is not written to file for one reason. The reason is that I did not close the file. So always remember, the file object must be closed to persist what you have written to the file. So the construct is open the file, create the file object, write to the file, and close the file object. So let's run this again and open. The file is written now here. So you can see we are able to write from this Python program into the file. So you can create another file. This now, if we look at what we have done, we create a file object using this file name. If this file exists before, it will open the file and write the data inside. If it doesn't exist before, it creates the file and write whatever you want to, the data inside. Let's change what we have here. This is updated line 1, and just to show, updated line 2, updated line 3, updated line 4. So let's change this and write to the same file again. Let's see what we have. What I want to show you here is to see that this new data that we write to file has overwritten what we have in file before. The new data that we write to file now overwrites what we have in the file before. So in this case, anytime you write with this file object, it actually overwrites what it is in the file before. This will not be what we want, because we want to write to file and always be able to update that file. To write to file in that way, we need to use another argument. For example, let's create another file object. Let's call this file object 2. And the argument here will change from write to append. It will change from write to append. And now let's append to the file object 2. So this is appending. This is appended to. So appended to. So this one will be appended to our file object. So we have file object 2 here. And remember, we have to close file object 2. We have to close file object 2 to persist whatever we write in file. So if I run this now, let's see what we have in our write text. So let me open it. Can you see now? The file that we write now is being appended to it. So the previous data in the file is still intact is just added, as in this one is just added to the file. So we have seen how we can read from a text file into our Python program, how we can write from our Python program into text file, and how we can append data into an existing file from our Python program. Let's use this idea, let's use this knowledge to write data from the school called dictionary that we have created earlier in the earlier program, and write those data into text file to persist the list of students in each classes that we create in the program. Let's go back to this. So we have this school file that I have demonstrated. I've written some names of students inside a class S1, and some class don't have any students in them. Let's print the dictionary again to see what we have in there. So this is our dictionary, and if we print it now, so we can see that we have S1, we have this list of students, S2 no student in S2, and S3 we have 2 students, and S4 we have no students. So let's write this data to our file so that next time we can read it back from our file. So let's say we have a file object school file. Let's call it school file is equal to our file object open. Then we want to have our file name school file dot text. So that's going to be our file name, and we want to tell the interpreter that we are going to open this for writing. We want to open this for writing with the W argument. Let's check for the dictionary for key values in our dictionary. What's the name of that dictionary now? So class 2 dictionary. So that's the name of our dictionary. So with key and file there, the items. So we want to have the key and value in the item dictionary item. So, and let's print the key key first, all the key. Let's print all the key. Let's see, it gets all the class for us, and for the values it gets the corresponding list of student names. So if we print both key and values together, we will see the class and the corresponding student name. So this is what we want to write into our file, the file object that we have created. I want to use this format. So we want to format the key. Now we want to separate the key and value with this semicolon, this column. And for the values, the value is a list. We want to join them to become a text. We want to join the list to become a text now, but each of the element of the list will be separated by this character. Each of the element of the list will be separated by this character. Join values. So now we have separated it to, as in join it to become a string. All the elements, for example, all the elements here will become a string, like this, but each element will now be separated by this character. Each element will be separated by this character, right? That's what I did there. So this element will be separated by this character, and all of them will be joined to become a string and written to the, so we will have something like this: the key, which is S1, separated by semicolon, and now we have this one written here, right? So this is what we will have written in the file for each class and for each set of students in the class. So if I run this now, remember we need to close. Okay, we have not completed the print. So after writing, we would tell the interpreter of the file object we want to write to, and remember we have to close it to persist the data we have written. So let's run this and check for school.txt. School file, we have it here. You can see that's what I want. That's what I've written to files. Each of the school students separated by the character and the class they are separated by this column. You can see that we have been able to write the dictionary data to our file called schoolfile.txt. So we can also read back the data that we have written to file, the dictionary record that we have written to file. We can read this back to our program and read it back to a dictionary. Let's try this now. Let's call the dictionary readback. Let's create an empty dictionary readback, and let's create the file object, which will open the school file that we have here. The file object will open the school file that we have here to read from. So we can say file for line in file object. So if we look at this, for line in file object, let's create a temporary data which will become line.split. So this is the opposite of join. Now we split by semicolon. If we look at the data line, each of the data we have here, it's first line, each line is separating the class and the list of students by a semicolon. So with that construct, let me demonstrate what we have here. That means this will be splitted into a list. Split is the opposite of join. So it will split this whole line of string into a list, and the list will have two elements. So we have two elements which is separated by the semicolon. Those after the semicolon we start another element. So we have one element which is S1 and one element which will be all of this. So if we split by this, and let's say we print the first element of this temp data, let's say the first element of the temp data, and if we print the first element of all the temp data, we'll see that we'll print all the classes. Can you see? We'll print all the classes. If we print the second element of the temp data, we'll print all the corresponding list of students. You can see, except those that doesn't have students, those that have students, it prints all the corresponding element. So with this split, we have the classes at the first element of each line, and we have the list of students at the second element of each line. After that, we have split. Let's say inside readback, which is our dictionary, the key will be the first element of temp data. You remember, it's the S1, S2, S3 that will be. Let's strip all the spaces, the trailing spaces and the leading spaces out of it. So that S1, S2, S3 will become the key, and the corresponding list of students will become the value in that dictionary. So in that case, we will also split that into a list that we have before. We have temp data dot one, which is the second element. Make sure you strip all the trailing spaces and split them by the character that we used to separate them initially. Remember, here we have this character separating them, so the second element also is splitted into a set that will now have each of these names separated by this character as elements of the set. So now we assign the first element, which is S1, S2, as the key of the dictionary, and we assign the splitted element, which become a set of students' names, as the value to the dictionary. So if I run this now, then our readback will become the dictionary that we read into the file initially. Let's print readback. Bravo! We have been able to read back that data we read to our file. We read from the dictionary to our file, and we have been able to read it back from file into another dictionary. So this is a simple method of reading and writing to file. We have seen how we can our program, read from text file into our program, and we can write into text file from our program. You can explore other file formats which you can write into. You can write it to Excel file format, you can write into CSV file format. So but for this introductory series, I will just stop at writing to text file and reading from text file. You can explore other form of file formats you can write from a Python program. You have seen how you can use a dictionary to store data and use it to get write the data to file, and even get data from file back into your dictionary. You can explore further how you can update the school record. Instead of getting all the data back, you can update it, since you're not going to print every student list. But if you want to print every student list, you can now get all the data from a file. So I think this gives us a hint, a kind of enlightenment on how you can write data to file from your program, and how you can read data from file into your program. So next in this series, I will be talking about another very important construct and concept in Python programming, and even generally in every programming language, and that is about functions. So far we have been writing a program consisting of sequence of instructions executed in linear manner without the use of function. Each instruction performs specific types of operation, and the program progresses from one instruction to the next until it reaches the end, like the example I showed you with my programs as I run it on each cell. And in the next session, we will look at how we can use function to modularize our program and be able to call the function to perform each of these tasks at sections of our program. This is essential in your programming to make your programs in fragments, and each fragment ensure it's working, then pull it coupling it together for the whole program to work. This using Python function is a powerful construct, and it will help you to write readable, maintainable, and extensible program. Reusable modules of your modules of your program will be reusable. So before then, you can explore further about writing to file, different file formats you can write to file. Look at I will drop my my own implementation of this school dictionary that I've shown you. I will drop the link to my GitHub at the beneath this video. You can explore it and see how I implement it. See if you need to make changes to your own implementation, or even if you think your own implementation is even better than my own, you can compare with it. So the link to my GitHub where I implement this program is beneath this video. And before next session, do a lot of exploration and expand your own knowledge about what we have discussed in reading and writing to file. For now, let's stop here. I'll say happy exploring.